Hello everyone, here's a quick video about multiple sclerosis. So I will be telling you in a little more in detail about multiple sclerosis. What age group does affects the multiple sclerosis? Mostly around 20 to 30 age group or maximum to 40s. That is the age group multiple sclerosis is seen. What happens? Here there is antibody which attacks the myelin. So this myelin is attacked by the antibody. So this is the pathology in multiple sclerosis. What are the clinical features? The clinical features will be UMN findings. What are the UMN findings? UMN findings are the Babinski sign and clonus. What does UMN mean? The word UMN mean upper motor neuron. What is an upper motor neuron? When this myelin synapses with the nucleus, and from here we have the another nerve, right? The impulse has been carried by the another nerve, but that nerve which is present upper to the neuron, that is the upper motor neuron. So when that upper motor neuron is affected, then those symptoms are known as the upper motor neuron symptoms. So the first one is the Babinski and the second one is the clonus. What is Babinski? When the sole is being struck with the key or any instrument, then ideally it should flex, but when all the fingers extend, then that is Babinski. Similarly, clonus is where there is continuous contraction of the muscles, and when they are unable to release properly, so that is the clonus. I will make a separate video for it. So how is the bladder control? In the bladder they will be having an urge incontinence. So why should they have urge incontinence? This is because the upper motor neurons which regulate the bladder control is damaged because of antibodies. So that is why the bladder, in bladder they will, those with the multiple sclerosis, they will be presenting with urge incontinence. What happens in the optic nerve? The two most important findings that happens in the optic nerve is, one is internuclear ophthalmoplegia and the other one is the Gunn Pupil. So what is internuclear ophthalmoplegia? In internuclear ophthalmoplegia is a condition where the medial longitudinal fasciculus is damaged. Why do we need a medial longitudinal fasciculus? This is because when we are seeing laterally, that is when the eye is seeing laterally, then what happens? When both the eyes are seeing laterally, then one eyeball has to go lateral and the other eyeball has to go medial, isn't it? One goes lateral and the other has to see medially. So for this to happen, that is the medial is by the third cranial nerve and the lateral is by sixth cranial nerve, right? So for this unison, for the third and the sixth cranial nerve to act in unison and bring about this action, we need medial longitudinal fasciculus. Now when this medial longitudinal fasciculus is damaged, it results in internuclear ophthalmoplegia. So how is medial longitudinal fasciculus determined? See, here we have this medial longitudinal fasciculus. Fine, this is just to make you understand. Now when this medial longitudinal fasciculus is damaged, this side, then what happens? That eye which is supposed to adduct and go medially, it doesn't happen. So when that medial longitudinal fasciculus, it stays in its position, but that eye which is supposed to go laterally, that happens normally. So you need to know that, so we can find out very easily that part where that eye which is not able to adduct, in only that side the medial longitudinal fasciculus is damaged. So that is how we can find it. Now the other feature is the eye which had gone laterally, when it is supposed to return to its normal side, then it returns with nystagmus. There is nystagmus. So that normal side eye will have nystagmus and the affected side eye will not be able to adduct medially. Then that side medial longitudinal fasciculus is impaired. So but if you ask me, in medial longitudinal fasciculus, both the eyes, will they be able to converge medially? Of course, that can happen because both the convergence is by the third cranial nerve alone. So that can happen. But for the third and the sixth cranial nerve to act in unison, we need medial longitudinal fasciculus, and that is impaired in internuclear ophthalmoplegia, which happens in multiple sclerosis. What do you understand to be Gunn Pupil? Gunn Pupil is seen because of optic neuritis. What is optic neuritis? As the word says, the cranial nerve 2 is damaged in optic neuritis. So why do we want the cranial nerve 2? So when the light is shone, that is when the direct reflex. So when the light is shone in the eye, then that impulse is taken in by the second cranial nerve and the pupils constrict, so that it doesn't only has to allow it has to decrease the intensity of the light. That constriction is by the third cranial nerve. So this is how the direct light reflex works, right? So but now the second cranial nerve is damaged because of optic neuritis. Now when the light is shone in the eye, then the second cranial nerve it doesn't work properly, so it cannot determine the intensity of the light that is entering. Therefore the activation of the third cranial nerve will not be proper, so the constriction of the pupil that should happen normally doesn't happen. But of course it does constrict, but not as much as compared to the normal light. But so this is what happens in the affected eye. Now the same light is shone on the unaffected part, and now at this condition, at this time, the unaffected eye, the second cranial nerve as well as the third cranial nerve are working normally. Therefore the second cranial nerve will carry the impulse that the light has been shone and we have to constrict the pupil, and this side the pupil is constricted. In addition to it, the indirect light reflex, it signals the third cranial nerve of the affected side too. Here in the affected side only the second cranial nerve is affected and the third cranial nerve is normal. Therefore the third cranial nerve will act normally and it will constrict the affected side too. Now again we are shifting the light to the affected side. Here what happens, the light intensity has to be sensed again by the second cranial nerve, but the second cranial nerve is damaged, so it is not able to instruct the brain or the third cranial nerve in turn to constrict the pupil. So the intensity of the light, because it is not able to gauge the intensity of the light, so therefore instead of constricting the pupil, it looks as if the pupil is dilating because it has already been constricted. Now the intensity of the light is not able to be appreciated by the affected second cranial nerve, so therefore it looks as if the pupil is dilating, or it is dilating because the intensity of the light is not being able to be gauged properly by the second cranial nerve. I hope I am able to convey the detail to you. So this is the swinging flashlight test, and this is seen in Marcus Gunn pupil, and this has been associated with optic neuritis. One of the most common cause for optic neuritis is multiple sclerosis. So this is in brief about multiple sclerosis. Now they can ask you about the MRI findings. You should know that there are lesions in the white matter. That is white matter plaques are seen in multiple sclerosis. So this is in brief about multiple sclerosis. If you have any doubt, you can write to me. I will be more than happy to clear your doubts. All the best for your exams.